Now this is the Sydney K-class cars. This was the first example of an open and closed compartment car used for passenger traffic on the Sydney system. They had just brought out a tourist tram with this open type seating through the whole length of the tram, and I guess that gave somebody the idea of having a half closed and half open tram car, hence the introduction of the K cars in 1908. There were 107 of these trams built altogether, 7 of them to replace earlier cars of a different class sold interstate, and 100 trams built to the order to complete the 107, filling in the numbers. Now, these particular cars operated mainly in the eastern suburbs, where they helped out the E-cars, which we had a look at earlier with the dense traffic. They almost always ran as a coupled pair. So back to back, you had a couple pair of K cars. They could and did run singly, but mostly, particularly in their latter years, they ran as couple sets. They were also sent to North Sydney, where they did Stirling service over many, many years, and that leads us to the story of this little particular car here, number 1296. 1296 was fitted with track brakes. We'll have a look at that in a moment, and for that reason it was transferred to North Sydney for exclusive use on the Neutral Bay line. And this tram worked on that 1 mile tram line from 1917 until 1956. Worked on that line exclusively because it had this braking system. Now what the braking system consisted of was a cast iron block which operated between the wheels. Here we have the front wheel and there the back wheel. This little block was in the middle, much the same as the scrubbers were on the D car we looked at earlier, and these brakes would come down onto the rail and help to pull the tram up on the very, very steep grade, because the line at Neutral Bay terminated, would you believe, on a wharf, the only level place they could find. So the tram would come down the hill and out onto the wharf, and there it terminated. This design was considered very, very successful, and we'll have a look at the evolution of it when we look at the O car. But we'll just have a quick look now at the mechanics of the front of the car, and we'll see just the relativity of the track brake to the other brakes on the car. Now the track brake that we've just talked about was activated by the driver on the front of the car by means of a large wheel, which we see Darren turning here, and that would actually press the track brake down onto the track. Now in the centre of this wheel on a spindle was the normal handbrake, which was only used to stable cars at the terminus or at other times when they were going to be left for any length of time. Normally, of course, in service you would have the air brake, which was activated by the air brake handle in the centre valve. And then finally in the driving compartment you would have the controller, which the driver would use when he was driving the tram. Usually on the Neutral Bay line, of course, you very rarely ever got up to full speed parallel. Most of the tram driving was done there in series because of the steepness of the grade and the shortness of the line. Now finally, just before we depart the K car, this was the missing colour scheme when we were talking about it earlier. This was officially known as the drab colour scheme, as you can see, quite aptly named, and it lasted from 1918 until 1933.